This year, which is taking place on Chav Cheshvan, which is the Yom Haledes of Rebbe Rashab, is a joint project of Eir Halacha and Mishka Moshe. Mishka Moshe Beis Medrash is a memory of Ramesha Akayim and Siyim. May this be shir being in schools. The topic of tonight's shir is one of the most common unknown areas in halacha, and that is, when can you ask a guy to do an isser for you on Shabbos? We have the great schools of having Rabbi Braun Shlita with us tonight to help clarify this very important topic. B'chavit Rabbi Braun.
I don't know why this always happens to me. I'm given a topic which is supposed to take a couple of years to finish in an hour. It's my mazel. So now it's happening again. Amira Nachri, telling the guy to do a malacha for us on Shabbos, is found in Shulchan Aruch. Approximately there's 15 simanim spread out throughout Shulchan Aruch dealing with this topic, in addition to a bunch of other places where it's mentioned in passing. And on top of that, for us Hasidic Chabad, I don't know if that makes life easier or more complicated, we have the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch, and we have the Alter Rebbe wrote a Madura Basra specifically on Amira La'akum. But the way the Rebbe told the Rebbe Sina Rav, he should stop using the words Amira La'akum, because that's a gullus way of talking, Amira La'nachri. I once had the privilege of being with a Rav, a Litvish Rav, and he's telling me what he's learning now. He says, Luz, what do you say about the Madura Basra? He must have assumed that every Lubavitcher that he meets knows Alter Rebbe Madura Basra. Now, the Madura Basra is almost impossible to get through. There's quite a few people have tried to write to explain what the Alter Rebbe's position is. Arguably, there's probably like at least 20 places where the Alter Rebbe Madura Basra writes differently than when he writes in Shulchan Aruch. And even that is still up to debate, and till this day is in the kofts and people are arguing about it. Just recently someone put out an entire sefer, what he calls Madura Basra HaMevueres, to explain Madura Basra. So it makes it even more complex. We're going to try to make things as simple as we can, but I tell you in advance, it's not my fault, the topic is complicated. Poskim already tell us that Amila Nachriya is one of those areas that people are nichshel. People are stumbling this area, so much so that Alter Rebbe brings. The Gemara really with Alter Rebbe has a stronger way of wording this, that is people that are lenient in a particular case of Amila Nachri, and we shouldn't tell them anything about this particular case, because we rather they not know, and they'll do things b'shoigeg because they're going to continue, because everybody knows you get a guy. I mean, come on, that's what we do. And the Rav could tell them from today till tomorrow, you're not allowed to, but people will continue doing it. Mutter shi yishoigeg al yimazidin. The Shiara Knesset Agdoila writes, Halavai shelo yinuchshalim ba'amila nachri kiyim ba'ofen shehiter bala iter. There's a particular heter of the bala iter which is not the halacha, and we don't pass like that. And he says, Halavai, that would be our biggest problem, that people would follow the bala iter position on amila nachri. So it was a common thing that people would make mistakes in amila nachri. It's a myth which is out there for so many years already. If a guy does it, it's okay. Chazal tell us, the Rambam tells us, that when people get going to do malacha for them, it makes the entire Shabbos more lenient in their eyes. Just so we should understand the significance of Amila Nachri. It's one of those shiurim, by the way, we have to start first with what you're not allowed to, and then with what you're allowed to. So if you come to shiurim right over here, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you say, okay, I better go now. So the way it works in Amila Nachri, unlike other topics, first you have to give the klalim of what you're not allowed to do, and then we can talk about the exceptions, because what you're allowed to do is an exception to the rule. Just to put in a perspective, a person has his house burning down in fire. He's standing and he sees his entire house burning down. And no sakanas nefashos, okay? I know it's hard to imagine such a scenario. Houses are near each other, electricity, electric fires. But imagine a situation, it's in a bungalow colony, it's a standalone house. Everybody's out of the house. You have nothing to worry. It's not going to get further. And the house is going on fire, and he has oitzers in his house. So what do? Call a guy, right? You tell him, my house is burning. It's Shabbos. And he says, typically this is a broken telephone conversation. So what do you want from my life? You don't understand? You mach me the finger. Remez, I can't do it because of Shabbos. So what do you want? Just tell me what you want. You would think you're allowed to do that, right? The Mishnah says that Nachri Shabbat Chabos, it's a Mishnah. A guy comes to extinguish a house, the person's entire fortune is going down the drain. Ein Omer Lo Kabe, you can't tell him to extinguish. And you also don't have to tell him don't extinguish. There's an exception to the rule. We have a klal called Adam Bahal Mamayne. A person is very nervous about his money. And that klal creates two opposite things. Because a person is very nervous, therefore we're very lenient when it comes to a person losing their money. And because a person is nervous about his money, we're very strict because he might end up doing things that he's not allowed to do. So when it comes to a house burning down on fire, Adam Bahal Mamayne, we don't let him call a guy to extinguish the fire. Because if he didn't call a guy, he might end up start help him. At the same time, in this case, you don't have to tell him don't. The guy is Ein Shvi Saseh Aleinu. He's a guy. He's not my guy. I have no obligation to stop him from what he's doing. If a katan, a child, comes to extinguish the fire, then we do have to stop him because he's my child. Shvi Saseh Aleinu. Chazal told us, one thing they told us by a dleika, by a fire, Adam Balal Mamayna, it's a big fortune of money, the guy is losing all his money, you're allowed to use an interesting lashon, not a regular remez, you're allowed to say, I don't know if the guy is going to understand this, especially if he's not a university graduate, you'll tell him, Kol ha-mechabe einay mafsid. You know what tell him, the remez you tell him is, one who extinguishes will not lose money. If you say the word money, maybe he'll understand what you're talking about. So that you're allowed to say by a dleika. But otherwise you can't tell him to extinguish the fire. And from here, the poskim say, the Gra writes this, is a rivash, that a person is mechuyev limsay kol mamayne, to give away all his money, not to be over on amid l'nach. But we have this instant solution called remez, right? Tell him with a hint. So after somebody learns amid l'nach, he realizes there is something called remez, but it's almost never practical. The solution called remez. There's also different types of remezim you can make. In most cases, typically, if you're allowed to hint to the guy, you're allowed to tell him also. And if you can't tell him, you can't hint it either. There are a few cases where it's okay to hint and it's not okay to say. And then there's also some chassidish thing, even if you're allowed to say, I might as well not say it. Okay, if you want to do that, gesundheit. So there's another reason why people would hint. And going back to what we were saying before, just this afternoon there was a lady in my house and she told my wife, I heard your husband's giving a shir tonight on cleaning lady. What could be the problem with having a cleaning lady in your house? I mean, she could do the laundry, right? So my wife says, you mean folding or washing? With her washing the laundry? So, I mean, the misconceptions are enormous. And people could go to the hotel for Shabbos, and the hotel Lechatchila we rely. Lechatchila, the arrangement is the guy does everything. Bishalak and Pasak and Cholavak and whatever, the whole thing. Let's hope it's not those three. But you go to the guy, you tell him the hot water urn is low, we're having a Shabbaton over here. And there's no more water in the hot water urns. If you can add more water, because I would like to have a tea. What's the big Aveda, right? Just Amila Nachri, it's not Bishalakim, it's water, it's okay. But Amila Nachri, you're not allowed to have that tea, you're not allowed to have the tea after Shabbos also. It doesn't take a lot of time for the water to heat up, you don't have to wait that much time after Shabbos. But you can't do that on Shabbos. Amila Nachri is, according to most places, from Issa D'Rabbanan. Not Issa D'Raisa, but it is hinted in the Torah. It has an asmachta, asmachim in the Torah. The Torah tells us about malacha, kol malacha loy yei aseh, not kol malacha loy yaseh. So the Mechilta says, loy yei aseh, loy ba'asmecha, veloy al dei goy, veloy al dei chavertcha. It should not be done even through a goy, but it still remains only Issa D'Rabbanan. It's hinted in the pasuk in the Torah. The whole Amil Nachri will change according to the Shitta of Beishamai, which in Mitzvah when Mashiach comes will follow the position of Beishamai. So the Shir right now is very, very Gullus oriented, other than the change that we made from La'akum to La'nachri to keep it in a Gula frame of mind. But according to Beishamai, there's a halacha called Shvisas Kalim. Your utensils are now to be working for you on Shabbos. How do you light candles before Shabbos, according to Beishamai? You now have candles burning on Shabbos. Your lights are not allowed to go, your air conditioner is not allowed to go. So the halach is, before lichbenchen, you mafker your candles. I don't know, we have to have a whole code of Jewish law, what we'll do when Mashiach comes, when we follow the shit of Beishamai and Shvisas Kalim. But according to Beishamai, the whole Amidal Nachri works differently, because you can't have any Kalim working for you over Shabbos. But we're going to focus till. So what is the reason why I can't have a guy doing work for me on Shabbos? Is primarily three reasons. One is a pasuk, but not a pasuk in the Torah, so it's in between. It's not mamash midrabanan, but it's also not in the Torah. We call it divrei Kabbalah. The pasuk says it Navi, and we say it before Kiddush Shabbos morning. Im tavshet Shabbos reglecha asois chafetzecha b'yom kadshi v'karas al Shabbos einig mimtzoi cheftecha v'daber davar. V'daber davar, you're not allowed to talk on Shabbos things that are not Shabbos day. So you can't ask a guy to do work for you on Shabbos simply because on Shabbos you can't talk about these things on Shabbos. There's another svara, another reason why Amil Nachri is Asr, because the guy is considered your shliach. Ain't shlichus l'goy, whatever. Well, I'm not going to go into the lumdus right now, but midrabana we consider the guy your shliach. The Alter Rebbe in Madura Basra learns he's not mamish. It's not that midrabana is considered your shliach. It looks like he's your shliach, but what is shlichus? There's a famous question that's asked: how could a guy be my shliach if I never asked him to be my shliach? We'll soon see how Midl Nachri is a problem, even if I didn't even ask the guy, he did it on his own. How do you have a shliach that you don't even ask him? Us Chassidim today could appreciate the fact that a person could go out on shlichus even without the Rebbe even telling him to go out on shlichus. But the Tzemach Tzedek has an entire tshuva dedicated to this topic, and two tshuvas actually. Tzemach Tzedek explains very much barichus that a guy could be your shliach by the mere fact that he's doing something for you that you appreciate. You don't appreciate the Isser aspect, but you appreciate the fact that he's making your house more comfortable. And that makes him your shliach. So that's the second reason why you can't have a guy working for you on Shabbos. And there's a third reason, which the Rambam says, that Chazal said if you get a guy working for you on Shabbos, that will make Shabbos kala beinein, and make Shabbos lighten our eyes, and you'll end up doing the malacha yourself, chas v'shalom. Three reasons, and it's questionable why we need all these three reasons. Talk about the Rebbe actually dedicated one to Fabrengen to this topic too, although the Fabrengen is very difficult to understand. Unfortunately, one of those other sikhs that never came out Muga, and we're looking forward to that, Mr. Hashem. Chazal went so far with this Isser of Amidl Nachri, the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, Lashon of other Rishonim, Hifligu by Chachamim. Hifligu by Chacham means they were extreme. They went to an extreme. V'gazru by Gzeiris, and they made a bunch of added rules to the Isser of Amidl Nachri. We'll talk about soon, they made a rule you can't benefit. Not only I can't tell a guy, but if a guy does it, I can't have benefit. I have to scream at him if he does Malach on Shabbos, Chiv Mecha. How could they make extra rules to Issa D'Rabbana? We have a klal, you don't make a Gzeira, L'Gzeira. Okay, the Pri Megadim, in the first master's question, this is not considered a Gzeira, L'Gzeira, it's all part of the original package of Amidl Nachri. Because Amidl Nachri has an asmach that's rooted in the Pasuk, remember, we said, le asa, ye asa, you can't have a guy, therefore it's much more severe, and they made a bunch of rules attached to it. So one of the rules we mentioned is hana. Not only I can't have the guy working for me on Shabbos, but if he does something for me, you might find even a solution around the problem of getting the guy to do it for you. We find a heter for the Amira. But now that he did it for you, you're stuck with the second problem, you can't enjoy what he did for you anyhow. Isser hana. Why can't I have a guy? Why can't I have benefit from what a guy did to me on Shabbos? Then there's two basic explanations. Machlokes Rashi Tosfos. I can't have benefit because I shouldn't have benefit from Alecha Shabbos. That's what Rashi says. He doesn't explain why shouldn't I have benefit. Either because it's a gnai, the Marashal says. It's pasnish, no? A guy works for you on Shabbos, and you're going to enjoy it now? Or, tifer avert. If you're benefiting from it, then you take a lemafreya. Because by me benefiting it, that makes it, Itaka did it for me. And that's one interpretation why I can't have benefit. Another reason why I can't have benefit, Pashut. Chazal were very practical minded. That's the main reason according to halacha. They knew if you'll have benefit, I know what's going to happen next week, and ask him again to do it. To stop you from getting the guy to do it, because the Rav standing to you and telling you you're not allowed to is not going to help. But if Lachra Maisa you anyhow can't have benefit, so it's going to prevent you. The Ram says even more. The Ram says to stop the guy. Because the guy will get used to the idea, he'll start doing malachas for you. But he sees anyhow you're throwing everything in the garbage, so he'll stop him. Not only you can't have benefit, again, there's a bunch of, I'm not going to all the rules right now, but there's a bunch of cases when you could have benefit, when you can't have benefit. I'm giving you the general guideline. Not only you can't have benefit when a guy does malacha for you, that's Amidl Nachri, even if he did it on his own, for you, the guy who does it for himself, is for himself. It has nothing to do with you. He's doing it for himself. But here we have a new problem. A guy could do something for himself, but he might add for you, like the case of the urn in the hotel, right? The guy needs for himself water too. But if the guy needs hot water for himself, he'll just fill up 1 cup of hot water, because it takes much longer for the urn when you add more water. The reason he's adding more water is for you. So even if a guy does it only for himself, he didn't add another cup. We're concerned, Shem or Yarba B'Shvila, if I'll let you have benefit from what the guy did, the guy will start adding for you. And here comes the famous phrase, which I'm sure people heard many times, Ner le'echad, ner le'mea. Ner le'echad, ner le'mea means that in our cases we have nothing to worry that the guy will do extra for me, because you only do it once for everyone. You light a candle, the same candle could give benefit for 1 person or for 100 people. So there, if the guy lit a candle himself, I don't have to worry and not have benefit. He did it for himself. He's not going to add more, because ner le'echad, ner le'mea. But for example, if you're coming off the plane on Shabbos, don't ask me how you got onto the plane. You're getting off the plane and they build, the ramp to get off the plane. They put up that, what do you call it? No? A ramp. The Gemara talks about a boat, but the same thing applies to a plane. So the halach is you have to check what flight it is. If it's an al flight, how many Yidden are there on the plane? How many Goyim on the plane? If there's more Yidden than Goyim, that means it was done for, even though ramp le'echad, ramp le'meya, you only need 1 ramp. But if there's more Yidden on the plane, then we assume he did it for the Yidden. And if there's half and half Yidden and Goyim on the flight, it's also because it's being done for a Yid. There's one case, I'm going to mention this case because it's a common case. I'm not mentioning all the cases. There's one case that we say, there's an Eli Rabbi that's mechadish, a massive chiddush, that if the guy to fix up a mistake that he made, then you're allowed to have hana. Case in point, the guy goes to the bathroom and turns off the lights. But since he's an experienced Shabbos guy, whatever the word Shabbos guy means, because that's a problem to have something called a Shabbos guy. It's quite a very restricted, limited job. But if the guy knows already what he's allowed to, what he's not allowed to, so he turned off the light, then he says, "Oi, turn off the light, oi vey." So he turns back on the light. There's no problem of having hana because he's misakin masha kilkul. And it's a very difficult thing to understand. Kvad hoyder zaken. The Maimar says the Elirab already passed like that, so we're following this psak. But even that psak has limitations. That doesn't mean you can go tell the guy, "No, shaita. Why'd you close the light?" "Oh, now I'll turn it back up. Now I'll have a no." You can't do that. And certainly if you told him l'chatchila to close it, but it was a mistake, then it's also not going to work. So the guy is fixing up a mistake that he did. That's talking about hana. We said before that Chazal made extra gzeiris. We said one was hana, and one extra gzeira made a middle anachi was chiv mecha. If you see your cleaning lady on Shabbos doing malacha, not only you can't have benefit, you're mechuyev to make a mecha, like they do in Meish Adam. You don't have to use rocks and stones. You could try a different polite type of mecha. You have to tell them, "I'm sorry, this is not acceptable. You're not doing malacha for me on Shabbos." And what happens if the cleaning lady doesn't listen? What's the halacha? Mechuyev legarsha mibeisei. Kick her out. Fire her. Find a new cleaning lady. What kind of cleaning lady do you have that's not abiding by your laws? That's the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. That's part of the Chiyuv Mecha. And again, there's details about this. Madura Basra is slightly different than the Shulchan Aruch, depending if it's a Yid's utensils they're using or the guy's own utensils, if you're having direct benefit, indirect benefit. I don't want to go into implications. And from this, we could already understand the issue of hinting to a guy. The famous myth. I didn't tell him, I just hinted. I said, "I can't see, you're dark here, I can't see." So let's assume that it's okay to hint, right? What would be the logic that it's okay to hint? Because I didn't say v'daber davar. I didn't speak forbidden stuff. I spoke with derech. I didn't speak a word about malacha. I spoke about me not being able to see in the dark. I cannot see in the dark. So let's assume it's okay. But then you hint up to the next step. The guy did something for you, right? What happens after the guy does something for you? Chiv hana. Isser hana, chiv mecha. So you bypass the problem you didn't tell the guy. Never mind if you didn't tell the guy. If the guy would do it himself, you would have a problem. So how is hinting any better than the guy doing it himself? If the guy comes himself into your house and turns out he's such a kind, nice Chassidi U'Misa'olam, Toiv Shebenega he's from, and he goes and he turns on the light. The halach is you can't have benefit. Okay, in your own house you're allowed, you have to turn around. But I'm not going into the details. You're not mechuyev to run into the street. If it's your own house, if it's in someone else's house, you're talking mechuyev to run out. You can have benefit because the guy is doing malacha for you. You're mechuyev to scream at him. So what does it help if you're going and hinting him? All you did by hinting is that I didn't say it, he did it himself. Well, and if he did it himself, which shows how this hinting is really very, very far-fetched. There are cases that's okay to hint, and I might get to some of them tonight. Before I mention the exceptions to the rule, I lay down the general law. Well, now we're going to mention some exceptions. I will mention that Alter Rebbe writes in the Kuntesachon, not a very well-known Kuntesachon. He says it about one of the exceptions, but its logic dictates that it applies to most of the exceptions. That even in the case where there's a special heter to do a middle and achri, because it's not a middle, that doesn't mean you should set up such a program before Shabbos. You don't set up a middle and achri heter before Shabbos. On Shabbos, you're stuck. And now you're faced with a scenario. You need a certain mitzvah to be done, and we'll soon see there's certain cases, b'makam mitzvah, where under certain conditions you're allowed to get a guy to do a shvus for you on Shabbos. So now you can go and get the guy. So the Alter Rebbe, like I said, says it about one of the exceptions to the rule, but about many of the exceptions, the same logic applies, that you're not supposed to set up Chazal will matter b'di'evet and not l'chatchila to set up that program miba'id yoim. Other achreinim say this pretty befedish. They say that a middle and achri is mutter only derech mikre v'loy b'kviyos. A different spin than what Alter Rebbe says it's mutter only when you're stuck on Shabbos and you can't plan it before Shabbos. And they say you can't regularly every single week. Shasat chak. Like a Rav once said that you can't set up your Chabad house on the basis of tzorech gadol hefsem merubah tzorech harcham kavod Shabbos yontiv b'shasat chak mutter. That's the setup of the Chabad house. You can't do that on a regular basis. So the poskim said that about the haftadim for Amidul and Achri. So I'll go through a number of the haftadim. Amidul Nachri applies to anything which is Asr min HaTorah or Midrabanan on Shabbos. Can't get goyim to do for you things that are Asr min HaTorah, nor can you have a goy do for you something which is Asr Midrabanan. But something which is only a Chumrah or a Minig, no, the guy is not shazay for him. The guy doesn't have to keep all your Chumras. And the guy doesn't have to keep all your Manhagim. So if you have something which you don't do on Shabbos because you have a certain Chumrah, or it's a Minig, the guy doesn't have to follow that, follow the strict halacha, and he's allowed to do it for you on Shabbos. Let's go even further. The second klal is that something which is a machlokas hapaskim, the halacha is machlokas, something that yesh matir and afil chatchila, that many poskim say that you're allowed to do it yourself. So when it comes to the guy, okay, he'll follow those poskim. Now that's not a very blanket rule, because of course it depends who are those some poskim. Is it a das yachid? Is there a mainstream view? Not always do we apply that rule, but Alter Rebbe says this rule in Shulchan Aruch probably 5-6 times. Brings a case, and he says that since some poskim say anyhow you're allowed to do it, so for the in Amidul and Achri Mamekel. Let's take about a practical case, a modern day example: opening cans on Shabbos. Some poskim say you're allowed to open cans, some poskim say you're not allowed to open cans. There was a Rav in Eretz Yisrael in the Eid HaCharedis. He used to come to Shalom Zach and he used to say, Eifo kol bakbukim. He used to ask in the beginning of the Shalom Zach to bring all the cans, he wanted to open them. He wanted to show that there's absolutely no problem. He held that it's no problem. All the framakas would say you're not allowed to, and some would say it's Isidoraisa, Boina, Soiser, Makma Patash, and he held you're allowed to. Okay, so there's different views. So when it comes to Amidul and Achri, we can rely on the shit which is mekel. We might talk about more examples later. Another klal, anything which is asur on Shabbos because of the rule of psik reisha, which is why in Amidul and Achri you always have to know the rules. Unlike other areas, you can't just say this is mutter, this is asur. You need to know the general rules because every one of these rules have bearing. You need to know the general rules of Hilchos Shabbos. Psik Reisha means something that on Shabbos that you're not allowed to do because, min ha-Torah, even though you have no intention to do a malacha, but by default, the malacha will happen. It's called Psik Reisha. The classical example, although the example is to understand, that you actually want to go on Shabbos and play and get your baby, your child likes to play with a chicken's head. I never knew there was such a toy, but it seems like that. So all you want to do is you just cut off the head of the chicken, and you have no intention to kill the chicken. No, totally not. Just want to cut off the head to be able to have a toy for your baby. Oh, the chicken died. No, we call that psik reisha v'lo yamis. You cut off the head, he won't die. And that's issa deraisa. Davar she'einu miskaven, even though I don't have intent. So davar she'einu miskaven, which is not psik reisha, if I have no intention to do a malacha, and a malacha won't necessarily happen. For example, I'm allowed to walk on grass on Shabbos, even though grass will rip. Possibly, it might rip, it might not rip. So you're allowed to walk on grass on Shabbos. But you can't, if you walk on grass and you know for sure the grass will rip. For example, some people when they brush their teeth, they know, I'm not going to go into the Shabbos now, Hilchos brushing teeth, but just this aspect, they know that every time they brush their teeth, they start. And some people say they never bleed when they brush their teeth. Well, it really depends how often you brush your teeth. And some people say that sometimes, yes, sometimes not. So someone who will definitely bleed when he brushes his teeth, brush, even though he has no intention of bleeding, actually doesn't even want to bleed. Quite annoying. But that's a psik reisha. He has davar she'einu miskaven, he has no intention, but if he'll show, will have. So although psik reisha is asr min ha-Torah, but when it comes to a guy, it's very different. And according to the Alter Rebbe's explanation, it's very geschmack. There's different ways how to understand it. The reason a guy can't do malacha for me is because he's my shliach. What did I ask the guy to do? Activity A. That's my shlichus. B is a consequent, automatic result. But that's not what I asked him. B will definitely happen. But that's not what I asked him. So the shlichus cannot apply to B because I didn't ask him that. Case in point. According to most places, this is a decent example. Some disagree. You forgot to turn off the light in the fridge. Right? Open the fridge, the light goes on. You forgot to put on the Shabbos mode. I don't want to go into Hilchos Shabbos mode of fridge, which is a sug b'fnei atzma. And today's modern day fridges are even a sug b'fnei atzma. So, but let's talk about the simple thing. There's a light in the fridge, you have to turn it off or take out the bulb or switch or put a piece of tape. I forgot to do it. If I ask the guy to open the fridge, the light will go on. If I open the fridge, it's a deraisa, have order, turning on a fire. Even though I had no intention of turning on the light, all I wanted to do was open the fridge. But I'm allowed to ask the guy, because all I asked the guy to do was open the fridge. The shlichus only relates to the fridge opening. The result that the light goes on, that's not part of the shlichus. Psik reisha is not a problem, amidul nachri. And that argument could be used also with regard to hot water, depending on how your tank is, how your plumbing system is done. But I'm not going to go too many chilukim over here. What's the problem with turning on hot water on, depending on your plumbing system? The problem with turning on hot water on Shabbos is, there's no problem with turning on the faucet. The problem is that every time you turn on the faucet, new cold water goes into the system, and the cold water heats up. So, but there is already hot water already in the system, unless you have what we call a tankless, is that what it's called? A tankless tank? A tankless water system. So then every time you're heating up, the only way it can work is by heating up new water. So when I'm not allowed to turn on hot water on Shabbos, I'm allowed to ask a guy to turn on the hot water because I want him to use the cold water in the system. The system is planned in such a way that every time you turn it on, new water goes in and heats up. And that wasn't part of my shlichus, psik reisha. Of course, if you're going to go to the guy and ask him to turn on hot water because you want him to rinse over here 4,000 kalim from the hotel from last night, so you do want cold water to go into the system. That's part of the plan. That's part of the program. You don't want him to use just that bit of hot water that's left in the system. That's a whole different story. Some people want to apply that also to a new, what do you call it in the hotels? What do you call the card? Electric, no, a key, electric key. No, what do you call it? A car? A key card. Thank you. So you go and you put the card against the door and it lights up. So, and you go to the hotel, b'chalal, you can't even move the hotel. You turn this way, the light goes on there. You turn that way, the water goes on. Everything is sensors today. But assume you got your hotel package made that you know exactly where to move and when to go, but you can't get into your room. So it's, again, this is one of those cases that goes back to that Alter Rebbe that I said before. You can't plan before Shabbos to rely on Amira Nachri. So it's not very healthy to go to such a hotel. But if you're stuck in the hotel and you're out of your room, you need to get into your room. So some people want to argue that asking the guy to put the electric car there is a psik reisha. That's debatable. There's another reason why we could be matter also. We'll soon see why with LED electric, it's okay to ask the guy anyhow. But there's a room for to be matter over there. But I'm using this as another example of the scenario of psik reisha. There's another heter, which is a very complicated heter. And that is that anything that could be done in a permissible way, I can ask the guy to do it because he could have done it in a permissible way. But there's so many different ways to understand what I just now said. For example, I'm asking the guy to do something which is asr. I'm asking him to do asr. But there's a certain case we could do this asr thing and it'll be mutter. Or I'm asking him to do something mutter, and he chooses to make it easier for him to do something asr. He chooses to do the same activity, a different activity. There's a bunch of different ways what I just said before. There's one case in Shulchan Aruch where this heter is brought down and says this heter is totally not acceptable. There's one case where this heter is brought down and says that this heter should only be set to B'nai Torah. And since I didn't ask all the people before they came in for the ID card, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the heter. Because it says you only allowed to give this heter for B'nai Torah, not for Amei Aretz. Shelo yisraglu lahater namid lanachri. Dilma asla dama milsa lamilsa, but asla misrach. Amid lanachri is a case which is very, very, there's some seductive element to it that really, once you tell a person a heter, he loves to find another heter and another heter. That's what it appears from this din. And if the Radvaz says it's brought on lahalach and Magavram, the Alter Rebbe, don't give over this heter to people that don't understand, because right away they'll say, yeah, everything you can do in a motorway. They won't understand the dynamics of this particular heter. But I'll tell you something what you're allowed to do. I'm asking you to wash dishes, and the guy chose to use the dishwasher. And I really don't need him to use a dishwasher. In fact, maybe I don't want him to use a dishwasher. It might be better for me if he doesn't use a dishwasher. So there is a different problem with dishwashers, not today's days dishwashers, that it creates noise. We call that afshe milsa. You're not supposed to be having machines running in your house. But today's day and age dishwashers are what we call white noise. Pretty quiet, you don't hear anything if you have a modern day dishwasher. So you don't have that problem. You do have a problem of hot water, have other electricity, all of that. I asked him to wash dishes. I don't know. He decided to use a dishwasher. That has nothing to do with me. Again, if you're asking him to wash from the hotel from last night, all the 4,000 kalim, you know he's using the dishwasher. It's the only way you can do it. Practically speaking, I mean, you could do it one by one, but come on, that's ridiculous. The same if he's using hot water instead of cold water. Never mind the heter that I told you before, the hot water anyhow is a heter because of, remember? Psik reisha. But I never even asked him to use hot water. He could use cold water. Well, depends. If it's very fatty or not very fatty. He might have to use hot water. Let's leave questions for later. I want to go through the... another example, the guy is using the elevator. I actually don't need him to use the elevator. He can go up and walk up the steps. It's okay. It's good exercise. But if I want him to get me something from the 18th floor, you can't say it's good exercise because included in your shlichus to go bring up in the hotel, you to bring up those trolleys with all the food, and he has to bring it up to the 18th floor. Yeah, he could use the steps. He could pick it up and put it on his back. He can't do that. Which is, by the way, a serious shaila for senior citizens to take them down with a wheelchair from the 10th floor, and the guy is using the elevator. Well, you actually want him to use the elevator. You don't want him to schlep the senior citizen down the steps with the wheelchair. It's a serious shaila, and okay, whatever person has such a shaila to talk to it of how to work that out. Another case where Amila Nachri is mutter. So we were talking now about things that could be done by Ifna mutter. Then there's a heter that the guy is actually working for himself. If we could structure La Amila Nachri that he's doing it for himself, there could be a heter. What does that mean? He's working for himself. He's getting paid for it, right? But getting paid is not enough. Because Shulchan Aruch tells us that even if a guy is getting paid, but the ikra malach is done for you. He's getting payment. Even, in other words, even if you pay the guy and he's going and turning on the light for you, the ikra malach is for you. He's getting a side benefit. But there's a case where a guy is called mamish adaita de nafshei ka'avid if a guy gets paid for a job, not for the hour. You dropped off your suit and you gave it to the cleaners. The guy is and there's a set price. You give him a suit. He's not working for you on Shabbos. He's doing a job. We all do that. We ask them to do things for us, and they do it sometime during the week, and it might be Shabbos too. So if a guy, what we call him a contractor, a kablan, he's working for himself, then the guy's not working for me. He's working for himself. And the extra job, now he's giving back the suit. But that has also certain restrictions attached to it. A kablan, a contractor, can't work in my house. Can work off-site. And my house, by the way, doesn't even mean if I live there. If I have a property and I want him to do some renovations on the property somewhere in outside of Crown Heights, so it's Toichat Chum, the house has my name on it, it's my house. It's a problem. The other thing with the kabbalah is you have to give the kabbalah enough time that he could do it before Shabbos or after Shabbos. If you giving him the job Friday afternoon, you tell him I need it Matzah Shabbos, Bamzman. So obviously, then he's doing it. You're forcing him to do it on Shabbos. It's as if you ask him to do it on Shabbos. Based on this heter of a guy working for himself, similar to this heter, but this heter was applied, but basically, so there's a common heter which is hard to understand. But we are Chassidei Chabad, and the Rebbe in his Rishimis actually brings a story with the Samach Tzedek with this particular heter, although many Achreidim question this heter. And despite the fact that the Rebbe brings it, you need to know, the Rebbe brings it as a story. And he doesn't say no qualifications, but the Rebbe's Rishimis is not a Sefer Halachas, it's writing down stories. You need to know when you could apply it and when you can't apply it. They'll tell you the story that Samach Tzedek once needed something to be done on Shabbos. I think it was a light to be turned on. He called him the guy, and he offered him a drink. I don't know if you heard of this common approach. And the guy wanted a drink, Geschmack vodka. I mean, how do you drink in the dark? You can't drink in the dark. So he turned on the light. He lit the candle in time that Tzemach Tzedek. And that was the heter. And that's a heter that many places can bring. A lot of them question it. Severely. And there are limitations to this heter. The first limitation is, simple limitation, that the guy actually has to do it because Itaka wants to have the vodka. Not because he's trying to do something for you. He's enjoying to sit now, not if he tells, listen, I would love to have vodka with you, Rabbi, but I'm in a rush. But go have vodka. Okay, I'll do it for you. You know, he's doing it because he really wants to do it. There might be room for a heter, and again, we need to, I'm mentioning this, I'm just throwing it out there, even though this is a very difficult heter to understand. And Pais can talk about it, but it is mentioned in the Rebbe's Rishimis, that's what I'm throwing out there. I'll mention one more thing still under this category, and then we'll move on to the next category. Talking about a guy doing it in a way that he could do it by Eifan HaMutter. In a lot of shuls, they have goyim mopping the floors on Shabbos, which is very hard to understand, al pi din, how that's permissible. There's two isurim with mopping the floor. You're probably not to wash the floor because the of hashva is gumis, of straightening the floor, even though our floors are straight and there's no earth. We call it karka murusefes. The halach is that's a heter to sweep, but it's not a heter to mop. Chazal were geyser, they're not allowed to mop even a karka murusefes, even a floor with even not a non-earthen floor, because mopping is not so critical. Ein bei tzorech kol kach. That's one isser. But the bigger isser is using a mop, is schita, is kibbutz, is squeezing, is washing, laundering. So what's the heter to that? There is almost no heter. Although the Maharikash, if people don't know who that is, I'll say the Kaf HaChaim brings the Maharikash. Kaf HaChaim says, it could be malamet schus, doshi be'ram, and so many people do it. Rather let's let the woman do it, and they'll be shoygig v'loy mezid, because then anyhow not going to listen to us and leave the house dirty. So therefore he tries to build up some entire heter there. So if you're listening to the heter very clearly, you're reading between the lines, the heter is they could do it without using the map. That's the basic heter that he says. But in between the lines he says, we have to give them a heter because otherwise they're not going to listen to us and leave the house dirty. In other words, you're not allowed to. It's pretty obvious. Or there was a Rav in Alexandria in Egypt, Mari Pragi, and he writes in a place where people come, Avdei Hashem, come to learn Torah, and it's a dirty place, and it's mamish very hard without it. So he's trying to twist some rules and find some heter. that's a bit different over there. We're talking about if we're talking about a public place with this covered abrius, this hazik rabim, people could slip in a public place. So many people there. Stam hazeh, it's very hard to allow a guy to map the floor. So what can my cleaning lady do for me, other than the Hatayim Musungin to mention? The simple answer is whatever you're allowed to do, she could do. So why am I hiring her? Crazy. And you have money. So the things that you're allowed to do, you can get her to do. There is a bit more leeway. Anything which goes under the category that we said, psikresha, machlekes hapaskin, something that could be done by ifna mutter. In certain cases, like we said, she prefers to use a dishwasher, fine, but you could wash her dishes too. That's one set of exceptions. And now we'll move on to another set of exceptions. Generally speaking, despite the fact that Mitzvah Nachri is forbidden on Shabbos, when it comes to something which is only Aseh Midrabanan, if a guy will do for you something which is Aseh Midrabanan, automatically the level of Isra has gone down considerably, because that means it's a guy doing it, which is to begin with Isra Midrabanan. And what is the guy doing? And Isra Midrabanan. So it's a double Midrabanan. It's a double whammer. And that's called a shvus de shvus. A drabanan of a drabanan. I'm getting a guy to do a drabanan. And once it's on that level, now there's more room for a bit of flexibility. What's the flexibility? Makkah mitzvah, miktas chayli, hefsid gadol, sar gadol, tzorich gadol. I'll go through them very briefly. So b'derech klal. If you're having a heter, I asked Rabbi, told me I can get a guy. Yeah, you know why he told you can get a guy? Because of the Rabbanan. And it was a Makkah mitzvah. Or it was a Makkah tzar gadol, a Makkah tzorech gadol. So, Makkah mitzvah. You let a guy to do is the Rabbanan if it's a Makkah mitzvah. Now you need to know that you need to know what's the Rabbanan, number one. You also need to know what's a mitzvah. Not everything that you consider the Rabbanan is really the Rabbanan. And not everything that you consider a mitzvah is really a mitzvah. I'll give you an example. The Alter Rebbe brings a shaila if you let her get a baby and have a guy schlep a baby through a carmelis. Carmelis is Issa D'Rabbanan, not a Rosh Hashanah. You also need to know what's a Rosh Hashanah and what's not. And you want to bring him to the shul to do a bris in shul. The Alter Rebbe brings two shittas if you're allowed to do it. It's a mitzvah, isn't it? Why, it's a mitzvah to do in a shul, you can do it at home. Yeah, but it's a mitzvah in shul, but Revam. What, is that called a mitzvah that you're allowed to do on Milah Nachri? There's two opinions. Alter Rebbe doesn't conclude, doesn't give us an opinion one way or another. We know the general meaning. We don't get going to schlep babies to do bris on Shabbos. Because you could do it at home. So that's not necessarily a mitzvah. On the other hand, let me give you a flip side, that Emma brings a limit chus, a heter that people get going to go carry food for them on Shabbos. It's a very, very Chassidish, mashka-oriented Ramon Alter Rebbe. And they would get going to go schlep for them food on Shabbos. And the heter was, you need for Suda Shabbos, it's a mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe says, when he brings this halach, and he says, it's a little bit mitzvah, but it can only be matter with sheikher. Because that's a tzoyrech gomer on Shabbos. To have beer, have mashka, you can't without that. I mean, in the Russian culture. But tafshilim yiseirim, extra dishes where you have kugel and you have the potato kugel and the lakshan kugel. Come on, that's not called Tzorech Shabbos. That's the beer that's Tzorech Shabbos. The extra dessert, tafshilim yiseirim, it could be that what's beer in Russia is ice cream in America. That I don't know. I have to think about it very carefully. But now we have a heter here called L'Tzoyrech Mitzvah, and again we're only allowing a guy to carry because the place he's carrying is called a kamas. It's not a mamshah. So that means you need to know where you're living and how the area is defined. A modern day question which is asked a lot is senior citizens or people that have a hard time walking, going with wheelchairs on Shabbos. And you look around Crown Heights, and you'll see some have a guy taking them with wheelchairs, and some are staying at home. And that is based on a number of factors. Either some asked the Shaila, some didn't. Or some asked one Rav and some asked another Rav. Or a Rav told one person it's okay, and to another person he would say it's not okay. My grandfather said about this, and what would be the heter? We have to assume that he's being carried in a carpet, obviously. Because otherwise, it's a deraisa, right? And the second had to be tzorich mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Tefillah b'tzibur. Isn't tefillah b'tzibur a mitzvah?
Why is there right to carry a live person?
Well, if he can't walk by himself, if he actually can walk by himself, that changes the dynamics too. But if he can walk by himself, just to make it easier. So there is other why it might be the Rabbanan, because I asked the guy to take him from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, Derech Rosh Hashanah. I never asked the guy to stop in the street. Whatever. I don't want to go into all the different lamdish svaras that we apply, and anyhow the wheelchair is higher than Asada, and whatever. We could go through a lot of different pilpulim and lamdish and far-fetched svaras why it should be okay. But what would be the basic heter? Tzorich mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Tefillah b'tzibur. Tefillah b'tzibur is a mitzvah. It's a what kind of mitzvah? Kriyas HaTorah is a mitzvah. What kind of mitzvah? It's a machlokes Rishonim if that's really called a mitzvah or not. You could daven at home. I proved you could daven at home. Yesterday you davened at home. Tomorrow you're davening at home. Well, obviously you don't have to daven in shul. So you see, so there's two big ticket items over here about this wheelchair. So one is if it's really the Rabbanan what he's doing. Number two, is it really a mitzvah? Both are two difficult trials we have to resolve. And we could find svaras for each one to find svaras to be matter. I'll tell, but definitely not. So I'll tell you something that my grandfather once said, who was actually known to be a tremendous male. The Rebbe said about his sefer that generally it's a liquid of kulas. If he says a chumrah, it's solid. And I'll quote you from a mekel on this topic. Bechlal das a liquid from kulas, when azakt a chumrah das a solide zach. My grandfather, when he was asked about wheelchair and Shabbos, he said, it's a red light. And you have to proceed with caution. That was his line that he used. It's not yeah, and it's not a no. Every case needs to be analyzed leguf shalinian. In the previous generation, the Marshag, one of the great poskim in the previous generation, he said, I can't see myself being matter taking a guy in a wheelchair. It's such a avsha milsa. Avsha milsa means it's such a pirsum everybody sees taking place on Shabbos. This just opens up the gate for any type of amidal and achri. That was his problem. This Techemet brings a similar kind of svara. People will start carrying for other things, and I'll bring you a raya. At what comes after wheelchairs? Carriages. Wheelchairs can man verstehen, right? Mitzvah, tzorich gadol. You know what happens to a senior citizen that's home for many, many weeks and he can't go to shul? What does it do to his morale? He might be considered a chayla. A zaken and a chayla might be very, very similar in halacha. Chayla is a whole different set of rules. But what about a kid in the carriage? What? Because we want to eat by our friends. What do you mean? That's a mitzvah. Achanasas archim, isn't it? Who's achanasas archim exactly? But never mind. There is a heter in Shulchan Aruch that you're allowed to get a guy to do a shvus l'tzorich archim, but the definition of archim means me'ir acheres. Archim does not mean, by the way, if you're inviting a neighbor down the block. Archim means someone from another city doesn't have where to eat. That's the definition of archim in this context. I'm sure it's a great mitzvah to have people eating in your house. So it's very, very hard to be matter someone to go schlep a carriage, a stroller in the street on Shabbos based on the fact it's a tzorich gadol, really. We said you can't, doing the bris in shul is not considered a mitzvah of tzorich gadol according to one opinion. Why is this a tzorich gadol? Now, at the same time, a lady is running a Chabad house. She needs to be in the Chabad house and making a public seder. She needs to be there. If she doesn't come to the Chabad house, bunch of people won't eat matzah, dal, koises, etc., etc. She can't be without her baby. She's feeding the baby. She doesn't have a babysitter. Okay, that's a different shaila. So every shaila needs to be looked at very, very differently. Shvus to shvus is mutter. We said it at b'makom mitzvah. And again, the question is what's considered a mitzvah? Mitzvah chiyuvis, mitzvah kiyumis, mitzvah hidr mitzvah. I'm not going to go into all those details. B'makom tzorich gadol or hefsid gadol. So a person comes onto Yom Tov and he says, oh, I forgot to leave the gas on. I did not leave the gas on before Yom Tov. You can't light a new fire on Yom Tov, right? So turning on a new flame on Yom Tov, according to the Alter Rebbe, that's when you need to know what's a deraisa, what's a derabanan, is a derabanan. It's not a deraisa. Of course you're not Alter, it's a malacha. But in Yom Tov, you're allowed to do malacha soich and nefesh. But a new flame, since you could have done it before Yom Tov, if you're not, do it on Yom Tov, whatever. Moiled Eish. So it's a drabanan. And it's a tzorich gadol. You didn't have food for Yom Tov. So you're allowed to ask a guy to turn on the fire. Which leads me to the question about electricity, that modern day electricity, not light, but certainly LED, according to many places, was not even into the raisa. So there's a whole shaila about, not saying we'll talk about it, we don't have that much time left. Air conditioners, heatings, all of that. Now, depending what kind of system you have over there, it's like switching on a phone, getting an Uber. That's all the Rabbanans, if at all. It's LED. Now, there is a strong. There's no fire. There's no coil that's heating up. There's some strong arguments that people say that according to the Rebbe, there's a svara that the Rebbe held that all electricity was a deraisa, and I don't want to go into that right now. But remember what we said, that if there's a machlokes hapaskim, you can rely by Amira l'nachli, the guy is not a labavitcher. There's enough price that say electricity is not, I'm not talking about where there's a flame. I'm talking about electricity, not where there's a coil. Is it the Rabbanan? So the Gaba Amira l'nachli, there's room to be lenient. You left the light on in the house, so turning on the light will be a problem. That's not it's a deraisa turning on a regular light. But you want to extinguish the light. You want to be able to go to sleep. So is it the deraisa d'Rabbanan to turn off the light? The deraisa d'Rabbanan? Mechaba is one of the 39 malachas, isn't it? So machlokes Rambam Mother Rishonim, we call it malacha shein tzarich legufa, because you don't really extinguish because you want to have the charcoal, you want to have the ashes. You're extinguishing it just because you want the light off. That's a machlokes of a Rabbanan. But you understand it's not mamash really a deraisa. So you really want to go to sleep, and you can't sleep without it. There could be room to get a guy. It's not so straightforward. You could get a guy to turn off the light in such a case. These are all cases of the Rabbanans. Oh, one more thing. I'll mention one more Rabbanan. I can't do this in an hour. One more Rabbanan. You're not allowed to ask a guy. You're not allowed to go and prepare from Shabbos to the weekday. That's the Rabbanan. Or prepare from one day Yom Tov to the other day Yom Tov. Are you allowed to ask a guy to prepare from one day Yom Tov to the other? Well, if it would be a Makkah Mitzvah, or Tzarech Gadol, or Tzar Gadol, or Miktas Chayli, it might be room for some leniency. But why would it be a mitzvah? Of course, it's a mitzvah to eat on Yom Tov, but you'll prepare afterwards. So if you're talking about a Chabad house, which has 450 guests, and there's no way they could do anything unless they start preparing on one day Yom Tov, so now we could talk about maybe some room for leniency. Otherwise, it's very hard to be matter based on Shavuos to Shavuos. Some people, by the way, want to say that preparing from one day Yom Tov to another is not a regular Shavuos, it's more lenient. The Alter Rebbe clearly says, no, you can't get a guy to prepare from one day Yom Tov to another. Sorry, from Shabbos to the week to a Yom Tov to another. Even Shavuos de Hachana you can't do through a guy, unless you follow the regular rules of Shavuos to Shavuos. If it's a mitzvah gemura, a real mamash major tzedach, how do you define tzedach gadol? You go to a rav. It's like in halacha we have it in categories of sickness. We have a category called mechesh ba'alma, mixas, a small ache, tsar gadol, big pain, mixas chayli, minor sickness. Nafal mishkav chalak al gufay, ein bei sakana, totally sick. Sakana sevi has a part of his body which is in danger, or yesh bei sakana. And in yesh bei sakana it's a pressing or not pressing. Now, the exact thing could be called any of those categories. Fever could be any of those categories I just now mentioned. Toothache could be any of those categories I just now mentioned. Well, there's different levels of toothaches. Well, I doubt a toothache could be sakanas nefashis, but it could definitely be sakanas aver. So you need to really to same with tzedach gadol. What's a tzedach gadol? In halacha we have hefsed merubah. The whole Shulchan Aruch is full of hefsed merubah. What's a hefsed merubah? So Shulchan Aruch says the place can say hakel lefira ois eine hamoida. A rav has to make a determination based on the person and based on what's a hefsed gadol. The same with a tzedach gadol. I'll move on to. This is all Isurim D'Oraisa. So we gave scenarios of Isurim D'Rabbanan. If it's a D'Rabbanan, there's room to be lenient with Amira l'nachri. And now, really try to do this quickly. I'll move to, there are cases we allow to even get a girl to do Issa D'Oraisa. When can you ask a girl to do Issa? If there's a chayla. Not a miktas chayli, a chayla gomer. What's the definition of a chayla? Ein sakana. Nafal a mishkav. He's lying in bed. He has to be in bed. Chala kol gufa, his entire body is sick. It's not a localized sickness. He's under the weather. That's what we call a chayla. Don't make this to mean more than it means or less than it means. It means exactly what I said. There's some Rabbanan that would even say if the guy is not going to shul on Shabbos, then he must be a chayla shem sakana. For some people, it's no raya. For some people, they'll go to shul even if it's mam shtachanas and fashes. And some people won't go to shul even if he doesn't go to work. So if somebody who's a choila, the halach is you're allowed to get a guy to do even if it's a deraisa. For a katan, tzarchei katan, what does tzarchei katan means? Mitzvah harbe in mayochal. You need to do this for the katan. The katan is also has a din like a choila. I had quite a few people ask me their kids had a cough and they had to turn on what do you call it, the vaporizer machines? Humidifier, thank you. On Shabbos, can I get a guy? You're almost allowed to do it yourself. You get a guy. This is a cotton and a chayla. He's a chayla even before he became a chayla. Now he's a chayla on top of a chayla. To get a guy for sure, no problem. And even a yid, I'll throw you a heter that's worth coming to the shir for. Alter Rebbe paskins that somebody who's a chayla kol gufay, not the Mishnah Berurah. There's some perks in being Lubavitch. It's about the only one. Some hetatim. The Alter Rebbe says somebody's a chayla gomer, chayla kol gufay. You're allowed to have a yid doing even a malacha d'oraisa b'shinoi. And that's why often you call a Rav about a situation. Rav says, just do it with a shin, just do it with a shin, just do it with a shini. And not just do it with a shin, just do it with a shini. Not a mechish balma. It's not I have a bubu tati. I'm not talking about a mechish balma, just an ache. Cholakal guf, he's totally under the weather. You're allowed to get a yid to do Issa D'Raisa just b'shinui. A little child is locked in a room, you don't even have to get a guy. You're allowed to do it yourself. If a child is locked in a room and break down the door, it's considered a sakana. I was once teaching Amira Nachri to a group of high school students, and this is in Australia, and I was going through how you can't do, the only way you can find a Amira Nachri is mutter if it's a drabanan under certain circumstances. A derais is only for a sick person. So I said, well, we were with Rabbi so-and-so, and he got a guy on Shabbos. Before they continued, I said, don't ask me questions for Rabbi so-and-so. I'm not mechuyev to Rabbi so-and-so. Now let me tell you this story. He told me the story. I said, what are you talking about? That's mamash chayla. What chayla? They were in Canberra for Shabbos. They had a Shabbaton. It was freezing cold, and he got the guy to turn the heat. If it's freezing cold, we have a cloud, but everybody's considered a chayla. Because the Alter Rebbe lashon is eis la koira gadol. It has to be very, very cold. And in that itself, if there's kids, then the temperature goes down. In other words, if there's kids in the house, it doesn't have to be so cold. Alter Rebbe doesn't give us temperatures. Doesn't tell us how much degrees. But he says, Chacham einav beroishay, only to call a goy if it's ba'arotzis, sha'akar gadol, uvu yomer sha'akar gadol. If it'll eat ein kar gadol kol kach, has to be very cold. Very cold, but we know it's considered, it's not safe to be in a very cold environment. It's pretty obvious. But just to give you a scenario, you should understand what means very cold. Russia is colder than, pretty cold, isn't it? The Alter Rebbe has a Kunter Sachin in Hilchos Yom Tov, and he describes a certain situation, which is negea to Yom Tov, and he says, it can't really be negea, this din of Amira Nachri. This din. Why? Because Shavuos, because Yom Tov is only Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So it's never in the winter. Shavuos, I understand. Sukkot? So, because the Alter Rebbe says, because it has to be only Kar Gadol. So, Kar Gadol is not, it's a bit cold for me. Put on a sweater, for heaven's sake. That's not called Kar Gadol. Kar Gadol means to be taka very, very cold. There's another heter. So this is one deraisa case. I'm going to try this very, very quickly. People are waiting for Maitiv. There's another heter where you're allowed to get a guy to do a deraisa, which was very common in Europe, and the place were debating, you're allowed to, you're not allowed to. It was a minhag was when it came to Ne'ilah, the shul was pitch dark by Ne'ilah. There was no electricity. It was candles. By Ne'ilah, all the candles were out already. So what do? So they called in the guy, and they told him, no, come and got him to light some candles. And they know the Behuda shreit of them chai v'kayam. Not only know the Behuda, a bunch of guys come, how do you get a guy? On Yom Kippur! Yom HaKodesh! Shabbos is even worse, by the way. But people in their mind, Yom Kippur is holy. To light a fire. Well, how can you do that? The Neidbuddha flies after the head, he's not happy with any of those afraid. Then he says, what you could do is you could get him to get the candles, the bit of candles that are left, he could spread it out throughout the shul. That's what he's happy with doing. Other people were a bit more lenient. What would be the basis for the heter? It's a deraisa. Because the Mopping mitzvah the rabbim, the entire shul is going to be stuck, they won't be able to daven. They were a bit more flexible, but most places have a problem. Even with mitzvah the rabbim, you can't get a guy to do issa deraisa for mitzvah the rabbim. There might be a room if a guy did a malacha, maybe you could have anah, because mitzvah slavli hanas nitnu. Maybe you could learn to that light. There might be room for such a heter. There is, however, a difference if it's a michshul the rabbim, there's an eidav that's down. And I'm getting a guy, I need to get a guy to fix the eidav. That I can even get him to do issa deraisa, according to many poskim, because it's going to be a michshul the rabbim. And the guy could tie up the eidav in a way that's examples. Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, you got to get a guy to do a deraisa for Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, according to many poskim. Machshirei mila, a few examples that I get to do the deraisa. Machshirei mila, a mila is doicha Shabbos. So therefore, machshirei mila, which is a way, you need to prepare a knife for the mila. And there's no other way to do the mila today, okay, then we'll let it go to do the deraisa. Tsar balachayim, the guy is allowed to go milk an animal, but then the halacha is you mechuyev to go and have the guy buy off the milk, so you shouldn't have any benefit from it. So you can get him to do it for tsar balachayim, because tsar balachayim is doicha. A very, very important rule, which I must say, is bein hashmashos. Everything that you allowed that is a issa deraisa, bein hashmashos goes down to a derabanan, like a derabanan. So if you want to get a guy to turn on the light, and most stories that happens in Jewish homes is right after Shkia. Oh, you forgot to do this, forgot to this, forgot to that, before Shabbos. Excellent, bein hashmashos. Shabbos is. It's the earliest minyan might have been 770. So during this bein hashmashos time, you'll have to get a guy to do even issa deraisa, because now it's like a derabanan, and it's a tzayda gal, and you'd have a fire on, you'd have this on. Again, you have to be careful what you're doing. There shouldn't be an issa of bishalakim, there shouldn't be any other issa to be kind of things put on the fire right before Shabbos. Even on Friday, you can have things put on the fire if you don't have a blech in certain cases, right? So depends what you're asking the guy to do. But bein hashmashos is like a derabanan. There's other exceptions too. I'm just going to conclude with 2 points. There's a heter called Amira da Amira. Amira da Amira is a big machlokes and poskim. Can I ask one guy to tell another guy? Does that make it less? And this is a case where there's certain rare cases. I once heard a rumor that the Rebbe once told someone to do Amira da Amira in a certain case. Where Rav will say, listen, there's mamish, there's no heter. You know, maybe if you do there's such a heter, which is a big machlokes when you could apply, when you can't, or if it applies. And Mitzvah Hashem will be zoicha lasad lavi. The second thing I was going to say will be zoicha, not lasad lavi, b'hoiva lavi. There's going to be a time v'hoy melachim emnaich v'sar yisayim nikisayach. We're going to have the goyim all working for us. So Amir l'nachi is going to be relevant on a regular basis. Now, till you get a cleaning lady, your neighbor stole the cleaning lady from you, right? You constantly have that problem. Lasad lavi, everybody's going to have, how many cleaning ladies does it say? They're going to hold on to each pair of tzitzis. A certain X amount of 1,000 people are going to hold on to every single yid. So we're going to have Amir l'nachi is going to be relevant on a regular basis. It's time to start learning those halachas.